Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. This week I'd love to show you how to crochet Mew from Pokémon. As always, I try and keep my patterns as beginner friendly as possible using only 3 stitches, which is single crochet, increase and decrease, and this I would class as beginner friendly, but the eyes can be a little bit tedious. However, you can make them out of felt and glue or needle felt them, but in this video I will show you how to crochet them. Big thank you to Vault Girl for requesting this one. I really enjoyed designing and creating this prototype for the pattern, and his tail is also poseable. So let's move on to the materials. You'll need your trusty 4mm crochet hook as always. Now if you do want to crochet the eyes, you will also need a 3mm crochet hook. If you're using a smaller hook than the 4 for making your Mew, just make sure you drop down by a whole size for the eyes. So if you're using a 3mm, use a 2 for the eyes, so on and so forth. Or if you're making a bigger Mew, just make sure that you drop down by an entire crochet hook size, otherwise the eyes do end up too big. If you are making them out of felt and glue or another method, then don't worry about the 3mm crochet hook. You'll need a lot of pins. Now I'll be using these big ones. If you don't have these, that's fine. Just normal pins will be fine. I'll be using a stitch marker as they are an absolute godsend. Now for the tail, I will be using 2 pipe cleaners. I couldn't find any pink ones, so I just thought this colour would be fine, but we need 2 of these for the tail if you want it to be poseable. Otherwise you can use safe craft wire or another alternative, but I'm going to use these crazy pipe cleaners. You'll need a yarn needle, a pair of scissors, and finally we're going to need quite a lot of stuffing for this guy. As for yarn, try and colour match it the best you can. I'll be using this gorgeous vibrant pink that I used for this prototype. Now if you are going to crochet the eyes, you will need yarn in blue, white and just a little bit of black just to go around the outside here. But again, if you're making the eyes out of felt and glue, these aren't needed, you only need pink yarn. So let's make a start on the pattern. Now for this Mew, the head and the body are all made in one piece, and then with everything else made separate and sewn on. So we're going to start up here on the head and work all the way down to the bum. And just like my previous videos, I will display the pattern on the side of the screen here, and we will work together for the magic ring, and then I'll show you progress photos as I go and display a few rounds at a time, so you can work at your own pace and pause the video if you need to, rewind it if necessary, and just remember to take your time and best of all enjoy this pattern. So let's get started. We're going to take up our pink yarn and we're going to start with a magic ring containing 8 stitches. There we go, that's my magic ring completed. So now, like I say, I'll display the pattern a few rows at a time and I'll show you my progress photos as I progress through this Mew with you. And please do remember to take your time. Stitch marker is your friend, do remember, and I'll see you at the end of the body. There we go, so I've just finished round 38 and I've snipped off a little bit of a tail just so I can use that to sew the hole closed after I've finished stuffing, because as you can see I just need to bulk out this bum here a little bit more, and then when I'm happy with the firmness of Mew's belly and bum, I will finish this off with an ultimate finish, and then we'll move on to I think what we're going to do is we're going to start at the top and work all the pieces all the way down. So next we'll make the ears, then the nose. We will save the eyes till last as they are, like I said, optional out of felt and glue. So next we're going to do the ears, nose, then the arms, the haunches, the legs, and then we'll do the tail, and then finally the eyes. So I'm just going to take a minute to finish stuffing this, finish it off with an ultimate finish, and then we'll move on to the ears. Okay, so for the ears we are going to start with a magic ring containing 8 stitches. Okay, so there's my magic ring. So just like before, and as always, I'm just going to display the pattern a few rows at a time and make sure that you work at your own pace, and I'll see you at the end of the ear. There we go, now we've finished round 5. I'm going to snip off a nice long tail, as I'll use that to sew the ear on when we get to the assembly section. And now I'll just ask you to take that magic ring tail, pull it nice and tight, pop a knot in there, and then we're going to fold this ear inside out. And the reason that we do this is so it gives it a more refined point, but it's still not too spiky, but it certainly holds more of a pointed shape, which fits perfectly on Mew's head. And also, I'll just ask you to take up a little bit of stuffing and just dob it right in there. Now we don't want too much so it bulges out and sticks out, just enough so the shape will be held, just like so. So if you'd like to pause the video and go back and make 2 of these and then set them aside when you're ready. And let's move on to the nose. So again, we're going to take up some more of our pink yarn, and we will start with a magic ring containing 8 stitches. There we go, there's our magic ring. So I'll just display once again the pattern a few rounds at a time, and I'll see you when we've made the nose. There we go, now we've finished the nose. I'm just going to snip off again with a long tail, as I'll use this to sew the nose onto the head. Now I'm just going to take my hook, poke it straight through that magic ring, pull this through and tie a nice tight knot on there. Now I'll set that aside for now and get back to it when we get to the assembly section. So now let's move on to the arms. So we're going to start with a magic ring containing 8 stitches. There we go, there's my magic ring. So same as always, I'll just display the pattern here on the side and I'll meet you at the end of the arms. Do not finish off at the end though, I'll show you what to do when we get there. Okay, so now we've finished round 7, what we're going to do is we're going to take our hook, poke it through and pull that magic ring tail through. Pull it nice and tight and tie a knot in there so that won't come undone. And now I'm just going to take a really small piece of stuffing and stuff this quite lightly. There we go, so the end of the arm is stuffed, but this top bit here isn't, because what we're going to do is we're going to single crochet this hole closed, so it gives us a nice flat edge to be able to sew onto the body without having to faff around with diving under any stitches at an awkward angle. So I'm just going to take up my hook and get comfy. I'm making sure that the stuffing really does stay at the very bottom of the arm. I'm not going to bother with chaining, I'm just going to go straight through this stitch here. So I'm going to pinch this closed and make sure that the stitches line up together, and I'm going to go through this side like so, and then straight through the other side as well. So as you can see, I've got both sides here just on my hook, and I'm going to pull the yarn through both of those and then pop a single crochet. So again, into the next stitch I'm just going to go through this side straight through the other side because they line up nice and neatly. Pull the yarn through and single crochet. And now for the last one, I'm just going to go through this very end piece here, this very end hole, and just pop a single crochet in there so it makes it a nice flat edge. So my stuffing is still in there nice and firm, but then I've got this nice flat edge to work with. And I can take this stitch marker out now. I'm going to finish off with a nice long tail that I will use to sew the arm onto Mew. So if you'd like to pause this video, just rewind it a little bit and make 2 of these and then set them aside when you've made them, and let's move on to the next piece. So now that we've done the ears, the nose and the arms, we're going to move on to these legs, these haunches here, and then we're going to do the feet. So we'll start with these legs here. Let's start with a magic ring containing 8 stitches. There we go, there's my magic ring. So same as always, I'll just display the pattern here on the side and I'll meet you at the end of the legs. There we go, that's the leg done. So I'm just going to snip off again with quite a long tail, as I'll use this to sew the leg onto Mew, and I'd rather have too much than not enough. There we go. So just like before, I'll ask you to pause this video, rewind it and make 2 of these, and then join me back in a minute and we'll move on to making the feet. So to start the feet off, we'll create a magic ring containing 8 stitches. So there's my magic ring. I think you know the drill by now, but don't finish off when you get to the end of the foot, because we're going to do the same thing that we did with the arms. So we've got a nice flush edge to work with when it comes to assembly. So don't finish off when we get to the end of the foot, and I'll meet you at the end and show you what to do from there. Okay, so now we've finished round 11. Again, I'm just going to insert my hook through the foot, grab hold of that starting tail and make sure it's nice and secure so it won't come undone. And again, I'm just going to take up a little bit of stuffing and just stuff the very tip of the foot a little piece at a time, and make sure that the top bit is still nice and squishy. As you can see, the tip of the foot here on this original Mew is nice and firm, and then the bottom bit is nice and squishy. So that's what I'm going for. There we go, I'm really happy with that firmness. So the tip of the foot is quite firm, and then the bottom bit here is just really nice and soft. There's hardly any stuffing in there, it's all packed up here into the top. But I've not overstuffed it, so you can't see the stuffing. Make sure that you don't overstuff it. And just like before with the arms, we're just going to insert the hook, get comfy, and then we're going to pinch this together and line up the stitches. And we're not going to bother chaining one. I find that gives it too much of a big border, so we're just going to jump straight into that first side and then straight out of the other side, making sure that it all lines up perfectly. And we've got both sides here on the hook, and then pull through and single crochet. I'm going to actually remove my stitch marker so I don't pull any stitches up and out of shape. we go, I've finished off with a nice long tail, as I will use this to sew the foot onto Mew. And if you'd like to pause the video, just rewind it and make 2 of these and set them off to the side, and let's make a start on the tail. So just before we jump into starting off the tail, I just want to talk about it very quickly. So when we make it, we are obviously going to start here at the tip and make this bulbousy section here. And now when we get to about here, so probably about an inch or so down here, I'm going to stuff this top piece here quite firm, not really too firm, but still it's still got quite a bit of squishiness to it. But I won't stuff the actual tail, as that's where the pipe cleaners come in to make it poseable, or alternatively if you're using craft wire, that's entirely up to you. You can stuff around the wire or around the pipe cleaner, but I found it just made it a bit too bulky, so I was more than happy to just use the pipe cleaners. So yeah, we'll make a start. We'll make this section here, and then we'll stuff when we get to about here, only stuff the top bit. And I really do recommend leaving a stitch marker in on this section, probably every 5th round, so you don't lose count. Unless you're confident with counting your rounds, I strongly suggest that every 5th round leave a stitch marker in, so if you lose your place, if you lose count, you can easily find out where you were and continue from there. So let's get started. I'm going to take up our pink yarn, jump right in with a magic ring containing 8 stitches. There we go, that's my magic ring done. So yeah, I'm sure that you're used to this now. So I will display the pattern, work at your own pace, pause the video, rewind it, do whatever you need to do, but just make sure that you're enjoying this pattern. And please do remember the little trick about leaving the stitch marker in every 5 rounds or so, in case you lose count. And I'll see you at the end of the tail. Okay, so now we've finished the tail, I'm just going to snip off with quite a long tail, as I will use this for sewing the tail onto the body of Mew. And now I haven't stuffed the actual length of the tail, I've only stuffed the end. I stuffed it, like I said, when I was just about an inch into the length. And now this bit is optional because I'm going to use my pipe cleaners here. So if you don't want to use pipe cleaners or craft wire, just stuff this quite lightly so you've not got big bulbousy pieces, because what you can actually do when you sew the tail on is you can just pop an anchor stitch on the back there just to give it a bit of shape. Obviously that's if you're going to stuff it. That is an option if you don't want to use craft wire, but for me I'm going to use these pipe cleaners. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to twist them together so I've got quite a bit of strength. There we go, that's a lot more, that's a lot sturdier. And now I'm just going to fold it in half like so. And I'm going to twist that again so it's nice and sturdy. There we go, and now I'm just going to insert this all the way up the tail and really push it up into the area of the stuffing. There we go, so as you can see the end is just sticking out there. Now you can add or remove a few rows for the tail if you would like to. 44 is not absolutely necessary. If you want a longer tail because you've got more wire, feel free to make it as long as you want, or if you want a shorter tail on Mew, just take a few rows off and obviously make the wire fit if you are going to use the wire. So we're going to get onto the assembly section and pin all of Mew together, and then I'm going to show you how to make the eyes if you're wanting to crochet them. Okay, we're looking a bit full in this frame, so let's start with the top of the head. So I'm going to figure out where I want the ears to go, and I want to make sure that they are nicely spaced out, that they're not too low down, they're not too high up, they're not too far forward or far back. As you can see, they are quite a bit back, but I don't want them too far back or anything, so make sure that you play around with the placements. Okay, I'm pretty happy with those ears at the moment. I think the best thing to do is to pin everything together and then play around with the placements. But for now, I'm just going to pin the nose on quite low down. About there or so, and see what it looks like. There we go, so I'm really going to have to picture this, and you're going to have to picture it as well, because obviously when we sew the nose on we will stuff it so it will stick out a bit more. So we need to kind of picture how it's going to look going a bit more flush down. And also we need to remember that there's still the eyes to go, so make sure that you've got quite a bit of space for the eyes as they are triangles. So I'm pretty happy with this nose. I can picture where the eyes will be, just like on this Mew here. I can picture where they're gonna be. So now I'm going to pin on the rest of Mew and just really play around with my placements. Okay, so I've made sure that the haunches, like his little hips here, are in line pretty much just in front of the ears, but I've made sure that they are in line with each other just by judging by the bum and from the belly. So I know that they're in line, And now with the feet, I'm going to pin them underneath for now, just so I can get a rough feel of how it's going to go. But using this flat section, I'm going to pin it just a little bit forward, so I know that he's going to sit and he's not going to be bulging out too much. Okay, so I'm not going to pin the tail on yet because I haven't got enough space to have that smacking everything, knocking my poor little worry pets over. But for now, I'm pretty happy with how this looks so far. So with this Mew, I actually put in a couple of anchor stitches on the arms because at the moment they can stick up. But on these ones, if you look very closely here, when I was sewing them on, I did just put an anchor stitch there just so it makes it more like he's holding his belly rather than his arms sticking straight out or being able to flap right out like this. But that is optional. I will be putting anchor stitches in on this guy, but like I say, that is optional, but we'll cover that when we get there. And same with his little feet here. So when I sewed them on originally, I just put a little anchor stitch on the side so his feet stick upwards, you can see here. So they always stick upwards and they don't really flop around so much. So to start with, I'm going to really just make sure that everything is lined up where I want it to go. And I'm going to sew the ears on first, and then we're just going to work our way down. Okay, so I've sewn Mew's little ears on and I'm pretty happy with how spaced out they are. So I'm going to make a start with sewing the nose, and when I get to about here or so I can still get a finger underneath, I'm going to insert some stuffing under there and try and go for this kind of squishiness. So there's not too much in there, but there's certainly enough to give it a nice bit of shape. we go, I'm pretty happy with that nose. So when it comes to the rest of Mew, to start with, I think I'm gonna do what I did originally for this one, and I'm going to make a start with sewing these hips on, and for that I probably will remove the feet. I'll see how I go, but the same thing applies. When I get near the end, I'm just going to insert some stuffing underneath these just so it gives it a bit of shape, but again I want to make sure that I don't overstuff it. I feel like I have overstuffed this nose a little bit, but I'm not too fussed about that. I'm still happy with how it's looking so far. So yes, I'm going to just take a minute and sew these legs, well, these hips on the same way I did with the nose, just by stuffing it at the very end there and then finishing off. So I'll meet you back here in a minute when I've done them. Okay, so now I've finished sewing these on and stuffing them, and I've trimmed off the tendrils that were left over as well, so it's less hassle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew on one arm and one leg with you on camera, so you can see what I do and where I put the anchor stitches, which, don't forget, they are optional. If you don't want the arm to be able to move right up here, pop the anchor stitches in, and same with the feet. If you want them to be floppy, don't put the anchor stitches in, but I'm going to show you where I'm going to put them. So I'll start with the arm, I think, and then do the leg, and then you can do the other two on your own, and I'll just do them off camera. So let's start with the arm. Oh, and also just a quick note, I'm going to be using a whip stitch for the arm. So I'm going to go in and then up over the arm, pull it over. So I'll show you. There we go, so now my arm is securely tied on, and as you can see, without the anchor stitch, well, I would obviously tighten that and then snip it off, but without the anchor stitch, the arm has got full freedom to move and will want to stick out like so. So you'd have both of them sticking out if you didn't want to do that. But now I'm just going to pop an anchor stitch in about here. There we go, so that was how I did the anchor stitch. So I did put 2 threads in, This one only had one, and it's still it's still strong, but it's a little bit loose at times. So for this guy, I'm putting in 2 of the threads, and it's a lot more robust, as you can see. So if you want to put one right at the very end of the arm, so it really is holding his own, is really holding his belly, you can, or you can put them a little bit higher up if you want, so his arm won't flail all the way upwards, but he'll still have that bit of movement. Personally, I'm happy with where that one is, so I'm just going to finish off this arm and then jump straight into the foot. So the same thing with the foot, I'm going to just work across here, but I might put a stitch, in fact no, I will put a stitch just here on the edge, so the foot will be held more flush, and then I'm going to pop an anchor stitch in just on the side here, so it curves the foot upwards a bit. You see that? So yeah, the feet curve upwards a bit. There we go, so I'm going to put the anchor stitch in now. As you can see, if you don't want to put the anchor stitch in, you'll have a lot more flexibility with the foot, but personally I'm not keen on how floppy that is, so yeah, I'm just going to pop an anchor stitch in roughly here just to hold it up to the leg there. So I'm just popping a second anchor stitch in on the side just because I want this foot to really stick up quite a bit more than what the original one was posing like. There we go, I'm pretty happy with those stitches. So as you can see, that really won't move now, and it really is curling up, and I really want that curve. Okay, so I'm going to sew the other two on off of camera, and then I'm going to show you how to do the eyes, because I think we will sew the tail on last, as I feel like the tail's going to knock everything about, so I'd rather do that last. So I'm just going to nip off camera, sew these on, and then I'll join you with how to make the eyes. And don't forget, if you're making them out of felt and glue, you can just skip past that section. So I'll see you in a minute. Okay, so for the eyes, like I said, we're going to need a smaller hook, so I'm going to drop down an entire hook size and use the 3, and we're going to start with the white yarn. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with a bit of a long tail, as I will use the white to sew the eye on, and also the blue. We're going to use both of the colours to sew the eye on, so there's no visible stitches when we're working that bit. So to start this, we're going to create a slip knot, and you're going to want to make sure that your tension is relatively tight. The tighter the better, so you don't see any gaps between the stitches, which is another reason why we're using a smaller hook. So to start with, we're going to chain 6. Now we're just going to single crochet into the second loop from the hook and work all the way back down for a total of 5 single crochets. Okay, so this is the side of the eye, and this is where it might get a bit tricky, so I'll do this as slowly as possible for you. So we're going to want to take up our blue, and now we're going to colour change, but we're not going to chain and turn. What we're going to do is just take the blue, pull it straight through the white, and then we're going to turn the work. We're going to count that as the chain. And then we're going to pull on the white working tail to make sure that that blue is nicely tucked in tightly. So straight away, we're going to decrease with the blue. And then I'm going to just pull the tails tight again, so the working white and then the joining blue, I'm going to pull them nice and tight, and then we're going to single crochet into the next stitch and then decrease again. Now please do make sure that you are pulling your stitches tight, because the tighter you pull them, the less gaps you're going to see. So next we're going to chain 1 and then turn the work, and then we're going to single crochet and then decrease. Then we're going to chain 1 again and turn the work, and then the final stitch is going to be a decrease, just to give it that nice point at the end of the eye. There we go, making sure everything is nice and tightly pulled. I'm going to snip off with a long blue tail, and I'm going to snip off the white equal to this blue here. That was my white working tail, as I'll use the original starting tail to sew the white section on. So there we go, the shape of the eye is coming on, as you can see. Because what we'll do with these tails here is I'm going to tie them in a knot, so I know that they won't come undone, nice and tight, because when we sew the eye in place, the first thing I'm going to do is thread these up and just poke them straight through the head so they're out my way. I'm going to use this tail to sew the white section and the blue. I'm just going to go around like so. So if you would like to pause the video, rewind it, make 2 of these if you are crocheting them, and then join me back here in a minute. There we go, I've got both of my white eyes ready. So for one eye, I'm just going to rotate it like so, because that white section there won't really be that noticeable when it's sewn in. As you can see, it's only really noticeable if I point it out, but it can be hidden quite well if you wish to do the optional black outline, which I strongly recommend, as it can hide any stitches that are sticking out. There we go. I think I'm pretty happy with this placement. So I've got roughly a finger's width between the ear and the eye, and I need to make sure that they are both on the same row. So if I follow this around, move those out of the way, you'll see that I will be sewing onto this row here, which lines up perfectly with that one. So make sure that your eyes are in line. Really play around with the placements and don't proceed until you are happy. Okay, yeah, I'm pretty happy with that placement. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take up my yarn needle, and like I said, the 2 tails that I tied together, I'm just going to thread them straight up and then right through the back of the head so they are well and truly out my way. There we go. As you can see, just taking those little tendrils out made a huge difference, so I can now see exactly where I need to go. So I'm going to start with the white, and I'll sew one on with you, and then I'll sew the other one off camera and you can join me at the end. So I'm going to start with the white yarn, and as neatly as possible I'm going to pop a stitch in here, and then I'm going to sew a really neat border and then end here and finish that off. Now I've taken up my blue, I'm going to neatly sew along this edge here, and I'm going to dive underneath, come out at the top, and then work my way down just to complete the nice flat edge that I'm after. we go, so that's my first eye sewn on. So like I said, I'm just going to nip off camera, sew this one on the exact same way, and I'll meet back here in a minute. There we go, I've sewn my eyes on, and I must admit I'm really happy with how these turned out. They're perfectly in line and my stitches are really neat. So for this particular Mew that I'm making, I'm not going to use the black to frame the eyes. That is completely optional, but with them both next to each other now, I really do think I prefer how this one looks. So that is completely optional. If you do wish to add the border to really frame the eyes, please do make sure that you have really tight stitches to make the lines as thin as possible, or alternatively you can use embroidery floss in black. But me personally, for this Mew, I'm just going to leave him how he is, because I am pretty proud of how neatly I've actually sewn those eyes on. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with that one. So let's move on to this destructive tail. Just a quick word as well, by the way, because I know some people don't watch to the end of my videos. If you do wish to make this Mew to sell it, you have my full permission. I only ask for credit, so please send people in the direction of this video, and please do credit me at Blue Fox Paws if you are going to make these to sell. You do have my permission, but please do credit me. Thank you. Anyway, let's get on with this tail. There we go. You know what? I'm pretty happy with that. That was first time is the charm. So my tail is perfectly between the ears, and there is pretty much the exact same distance between the hips, his little legs here, and the base of the tail. So I'm really happy with that placement straight off the bat. Now do remember, if you aren't using any kind of craft wire and you have stuffed this, do not forget that you can always just fold it up here. I mean, well, mine's got a wire in it, so it's a bit difficult, but you can put an anchor stitch in on the tail there, so you'll still have it upright, and it will be able to bend to the size I assume. Just play around, see what you think, see how it feels for you. But personally, I really like the craft wire, so the tail is fully poseable. I do like to have Mew sat with his tail in his hands, for example. Anyway, I'm just going to sew this on, and then that's it. We'll compare the two when they're both complete. And there we go. That's how you crochet this adorable Mew from Pokemon. And yeah, I knew that these tails would be pretty destructive. So you know what, I really do prefer it without the border. I'm happy that I've been able to show you a good comparison so you can determine whether you want the border around the eyes or not. Personally, I'm a huge fan of not. I feel like his eyes sit in his face a lot better compared to this one. No offense, Mew. So anyway, thank you so much for watching. I really hope that you enjoyed learning how to make this adorable Pokemon. There we go, there's the destructive tail. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and please consider subscribing so you don't miss my weekly tips, tricks and free crochet patterns. like this one, and I really do hope to see you in the next video. Bye for now.